verse 1. Says the pasuk, Vayal Avraham in Mitzrayim, and Abraham went up from Egypt, Uvi Ishto, he and his wife, V'chol asher lo, and everything that belonged to him. Lot Timo and Negba, and Lot came up with him from the south, or they went with him. They went toward the south. So why does it say they went up? Rashi gives us a fundamental position. Mavo Adroma Shel Eretz Yisrael. They went to come to the south of Israel, as it states above, Haloch v'nasoa hanegba, going and traveling to the south. So they were going to the south of Israel, which is Mount Moriah. So they were going to Mount Moriah. Nevertheless, when one goes from Egypt to the land of Canaan, it's called going from south to the north. It's called going from south to north, and because Egypt is in the south of the land of Israel. And it's demonstrated in the travels and the boundaries of the land. So that's the first idea, that Egypt is south of Israel. Rashi is telling us that. And then it states, Avraham kavim od. Abraham was very heavy. What does that mean? He was carrying a lot of baggage, Rashi says. Sometimes kaved means mighty, but here it means heavy. With cattle, gold, and silver. And he proceeded on his journeys from the south to Beit-El, until the place where he had first pitched his tent, between Beit-El and Ai. So this is a fundamental teaching that Rashi tells us. When he returned from Egypt to the land of Canaan, he would go and stay overnight in the same places that he stayed on the way down there. This is to teach us the proper conduct, that a person shouldn't change his lodgings. He shouldn't use different lodgings when traveling on the same route. Because when you change your lodgings, that might be viewed as an expression of dissatisfaction with the lodging and the host's dissatisfaction with the traveler. So you should always try and stay in the same place each time you go somewhere. Rashi says, alternatively, on his return, he paid his debts. He made a point of paying his debts as soon as he could. Min Negev Eretz Mitzrayim, from the south of the land of Egypt, in the south to the south of the land of Canaan. Okay, the first four. Al Makom HaMizbeach, he went to the place of the altar that he had originally made. That was in Beit-El. And Abraham called there, Vayikra Sham Avraham b'Shem Hashem. And Avraham called there in the name of God. So he went to the place where he had built an altar, and he called there in the name of God. What does it say? What does this mean? Rashi says, V'gam yesh lomar vayikra Sham achshav b'Shem Hashem. It's also possible to say that the verse means where Abraham had then called, or it can mean where Abraham is now calling the name of God. There's two possible interpretations. V'gam Lot, and also for Lot, ha'olech et Avraham, who went with Avraham, hayatzon bakar u'alim. He had sheep and cattle and tents. So what caused him to have this? What caused Lot to be so successful? The fact that he was going with Avraham. The fact that he was going with Avraham made him so successful. The next verse says, and the land could not support them to dwell together. Oh, Mordechai. Hello there, hello there. Kaya Rochusham Rav. They had too much, they had too many possessions to dwell together. The land was not able to dwell there together because they had so much of it, and they couldn't dwell together there. Rashi says it was not able to supply pasture for their livestock. We're in chapter 13, verse 6. Speak mireh, wasn't able to supply pasture for their livestock. Meaning to say, they had too much possessions, they couldn't share everything together. So they had too much. The more you have, all of a sudden fights begin. If you have nothing to fight over. And there was indeed a fight. There was a fight between the shepherds of Avraham and the shepherds of Lot. And the Canaanites and Perizi were also then in the land. Rashi says, why was there a fight? Because Lot's shepherds were wicked. Lot's shepherds were wicked, and they would graze their cattle in the fields of others. And the Abraham shepherds would rebuke them over the theft they committed by grazing their cattle on other people's land. So Lot's shepherds were stealing from people, and Abraham's shepherds would tell them, you're not allowed to do that. You can't just graze on other people's lands. And they would say, the land was given to Abraham, and Lot is his wife's brother and his nephew. So he's going to inherit it. So it's not theft, because the land is ultimately Lot's. And the verse states, no. That's why it states the Canaanites and the Perizzites were then in the land, because Abraham had not yet come into possession of it. That's the idea. So that's why they were fighting. They were fighting over the stealing. That's what was going on. So the verse says, Vayomer Avram Lot, and Avram said to Lot, Al na tehi meriva beini u'beinecha. Avram said to Lot, don't let there be a fight. I don't want to fight between me and you. We're family. We don't want to fight. We weren't that in the laws of inheritance now. Hold on one second. My nephew. Hold on. It's just about our minyan. Somebody wants to come and make our minyan. So it states, so basically what happened was Lot was in a fight, and therefore Lot's shepherds were fighting with Abraham's shepherds because Abraham's shepherds said Lot's shepherds were stealing. So that's why it says that the Canaanites and the Perizzites were in the land, because they didn't have the right to it, because Lot's shepherds were claiming we have the right to it as Abraham's descendants. So that's the point, that they didn't have the right to it, because even though Abraham was going to inherit it, he didn't have it yet. So Avram said to Lot, let's not fight between me and you and between my shepherds and your shepherds. We are brothers. The word brothers means relatives. They really, now Rashi says it means they're relatives, but really they are brothers because he was Sarah's brother. We had said that he was Sarah's brother. So Rashi could have said that they were brothers. The Midrash says that they had the same appearance. They bore a physical resemblance to each other. So Abraham says to Lot, you have the whole land in front of you. Separate from me. If to the left, I will go right, and if to the right, I will go left. Rashi says, if to the left, I will go right. Wherever you dwell, I won't go too far. I won't distance myself from you. I'll stand as a protector and helper. But in the end, Lot needed Avraham as a protector, as it states that Avraham heard that his brother was taken captive. So in the end, he will need a protector. In the end, hey, how are we doing, my friend? Baruch Hashem. In the end, he will need a protector because we know Lot is going to be captured. How you doing, Kobe? How'd you do on your test today? Pretty good. You know what? I promise you that that's very good. And I also promise you, nobody's ever going to ask you what you got on that test. It's just a question of if you feel you were able to understand the material and do your best. Nobody's going to say to you, when you're making your deals and you're making your money and you're doing your thing, which I know you're going to be doing, you'll be very successful. I know you're going to be very successful because you come here and you study, and I could tell. So nobody's going to care about that test. Right, Mordechai? Will you agree with that assessment? Yeah. I studied so hard for tests in school. Why was I misguided? That was a mistake. No, I'm just kidding. I actually loved college and graduate school. High school, not so much, but college and graduate school, I loved it. But you know what? You got to move on, right? Okay, next verse. Ve'imina. Rashi says, what does it mean? I will right myself, just as Vasmila means literally, I will left myself. And if you will say, it should have vowelized Vaimina, in Yesh La'amin, well, then he's talking about the vowel. Okay, fine. And it states, Vayisa Lot Aseinav, so Lot lifts up his eyes. Vayar Kikol Kikara Yardain Kikula Mashke. He saw that the whole Jordan was lush. Rashi says it was a land of streams and water. This was before God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. It was like the Garden of Egypt in reaching Zoar. Meaning he sees Sodom and Gomorrah. Now we know this was a terrible place, but Lot didn't see that. All he saw was the dollar signs. He saw the dollar signs. Rashi says, this was before God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Also Mishor, that place was Kigan Hashem, like the Garden of Hashem. Note, like trees, like the land of Egypt, with regard to seeds. I mean to say it was very beautiful land. Egypt was, even though Israel was superior land, Egypt had one aspect in which it was superior. That is the production of seeds. And that's what it was compared to Egypt for. Until Tzoar, what does that mean? That Lot, the Midrash says that Lot wanted to go there because they were immersed in lewdness. So that's why he chose their neighborhood. Tzoar, how do we see that from the Midrash? Because there are other verses which deal with sexual immorality, and they use similar language. Wow. Hello, Ilan, how are you doing? Amazing. See, we got some Pop'ems, Entenmann's donuts. Oh, you don't eat that? You don't eat that? Baruch Hashem. Yeah, Eli.
People their break day is when they eat all the donuts, but my break day is.
Wow. I'm on the cut.
So give me all your food.
I'm not eating that stuff, trust me. I'm on the cut. I'm on the cut. I'm definitely not on the bulk. I'm on the cut. I'm trying to be on the cut. Okay. What? I don't know. The biology is against us. When I was under 40, I could eat as much as I wanted. I couldn't gain weight. It was impossible for me to gain weight. When you get over 40, you can eat as much as you can eat as little as you want, and you can't lose weight. That's just biology, genetic. Anyway, just telling to you. Enjoy it while you got it, while you can.
Every time I'm reading like a donut or something,
Yeah.
somebody has too much.
Yeah. Well, whatever. You're doing great. Don't worry about it. So now, Lo chose. Vayivchar Lo wrote it's called Kikar Yardain. Hello, Eliezer. How you doing today? So remember about our project. So if you could check it out. Yeah. Thanks. We're in chapter 13, verse 11. So Lot chose for himself the whole Kikar Yardain. Vayisel Mikadem. And Lot traveled to the east. Vayipardu Ishmael Achiv. And everybody separated from his brother. So he chose the whole plains. And what does it mean? He traveled to the east, meaning to say it was found that he was traveling from east to west. But the Midrash tells us something powerful. He Lo took this opportunity to move away from Abraham and away from God. Can you imagine, just for a second, Kobe, Elon, Mordechai, and Aviva, can you imagine that you have an opportunity to live with Abraham, to travel with Abraham, and instead you have a competing opportunity? What? You can go upstairs. I think I might have upstairs the yeshiva selling milk kippah. No, there is something better. You know what it is? Coming in with your own. So, thank you, Kobe. Thank you. Kobe. The best. But can you imagine? I'm just laying out the scenario. This guy has this opportunity to spend. If you had an opportunity to spend 1 minute with Abraham, what would you do for that opportunity? You would travel to the other end of the world, Greg. Yeah, please get a chumash, please, my friend. Okay, fine. So we're saying that Lot traveled away from Abraham because he saw lush pastures. But what I'm saying, Elon, is if you had just one opportunity to just spend 1 minute with Lot, with Abraham, you would give up everything in the world. You would be like, I'm quitting my job just for that one moment, that one opportunity, that one.
What would you put these opportunities?
I would. It would change my life forever to spend 1 minute with Abraham. It's an incomparable experience. And Lot, and what did Lot do? He said, I don't need it. I'm going to go and I'm going to make a few extra dollars I found some greener grass over there. What a mistake. That's why the Midrash is saying he traveled away from the forerunner of the world. He said, I don't want Abraham nor his God. What a terrible mistake. But how many of us are making this short-sighted mistake in our lives? We make a turn for a little bit of momentary pleasure of some cash, but it's really we're going towards Sodom and Gomorrah and going away from Abraham. What a mistake! What a terrible, terrible decision to make. Terrible decision to make. I want to tell you something. I know somebody who's probably one of the wealthiest. Hey, Daniel. Okay, good. We'll have a minute in 10 minutes. You'll help us make you'll be machazik us. So what happened was, I was with Daniel, but I want you to hear this story. This story is going to have an impact and you can remember this story your whole life. I promise you. I'm not making up this story. I'm not exaggerating one bit. I was spending a few moments a couple of weeks ago with one of the most successful business people in this entire city. Has made, I don't count other people's money, but he's made an enormous amount of money. I don't count other people's money, but he's one of the most successful business people in the whole city. And he is, an older man now. And do you know what he says to me? You know what he said to me? This is what he said to me. I should have been a doctor. I regret that I wasn't a doctor. Meaning to say, he made so much money, but it doesn't matter how much money you make. if you feel like you spend your life not engaged in a meaningful activity, meaningful behavior. So just to make money is not a reason to go into that profession. You have to also find something that's incredibly meaningful. Of course, you have to be practical. You have to be able to make a living, but you shouldn't go down a path just for the money, because then when he realizes he comes towards the winter of his life and he regrets that he didn't do something more meaningful with his life and helping people. And now his person is a good person and he's helped me a lot, but that's a very important lesson that I want you to hear, Daniel. You got it? You hop? Okay, Elon, what's your point?
Like the magnitude of being with around a person like Avraham, Avraham was probably lost. Look, Avraham was around, all like everything seems like a kid.
So he took it for granted.
For him, it probably wasn't as big of a deal that he could breathe on.
That's exactly the point. But that's also the point. So many of us, we have these special opportunities in life and we take them for granted. You know, I see Moshe and Ezra, I see you next to your father. What an opportunity you have in life to study Torah with your father. Like, you shouldn't take that for granted. You have this incredible moment. You know, years from now, you're going to look back and say this was some of the best days of your life. Now you're sitting there studying with your dad. You know, like, we have these moments in life. And Lot, that's another very powerful lesson. Lot took it for granted. He took Abraham for granted. He's like, okay, big deal. I had it. No, if I was able to be next to Abraham, I never would have left for a second. Okay, anyway. Verse 12. Avram Yashav Varetz Canaan. Avram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot Yashav Varei Kikar. Lot was living in the Kikar plains, in the cities of the plains. Vayel ad Sodom, and he pitched his tent all the way to Sodom. Rashi says he took his tents for his shepherds and his livestock all the way to Sodom. We might have thought it meant he pitched his own tent, but then it would have said he pitched his tent in Sodom, meaning to say he had a lot of shepherds, a lot of livestock. Lot became very, very wealthy. But now we see what the problem was. The people of Sodom were very bad. The people of Sodom were very bad. Bad and sinners to God, a great deal. Rashi says, and despite this, Lot did not refrain from living amongst them. And our rabbis learned from here, the name of the wicked shall rot, meaning to say, their names will fade into oblivion. So they made a tremendous They made this tremendous mistake. How are they bad? Rashi says, with their bodies and with their properties. To Hashem, their master, they wanted to rebel against him. So this is the saddest part. But we have another question. Avraham was the founder of Jewish faith. How could it be that he didn't teach this person who was his brother or his nephew or his wife's brother? Well, how could it be that he didn't teach him the right path? See, you can't always get it right. You can't always get it right. That's the message there. All right, let's stop the recording here.